How much is enough? This question, seemingly simple, has become a profound enigma in modern society. We live in a world where the answer to enough seems perpetually elusive. As soon as we attain one thing, we quickly realize it was merely a stepping stone for wanting more. But is enough something we can quantify, or is it a deeper feeling, far beyond the material values we accumulate? Part 1. Where does wealth come from in this world? According to Buddhist thought, all material possessions and wealth are the result of dependent origination, a complex web of interconnected elements where nothing exists independently. The wealth we own is temporary. Everything can be taken away or lost. This idea challenges how we perceive value and ownership. Are the riches we possess truly ours? Looking deeper, we find that everything we own comes from nature or others' labor. From the land we build on to the food we eat, all resources are something we've borrowed from the universe. Whatever we accumulate will, sooner or later, return to its source. So, viewing wealth not as a personal asset but as part of a karmic cycle is a perspective Buddhist philosophy offers. Part 2. Investment thinking. Each of us is the investor of our own life. If an investor is typically someone who sows capital into markets to create profit, then, from a Buddhist perspective, each of us is an investor in our own lives. Every thought, action, and decision we make is an investment we plant in our minds. Every positive intention is like a good seed that will yield beneficial fruits. Conversely, if we sow negative seeds like greed, anger, or envy, our harvest will only bring suffering. Buddhist philosophy introduces the concept of karma to explain that every thought and action yields an effect. Karma is not some mysterious force of punishment or reward, but rather the natural outcome of our deeds. So when we act with greed or with compassion, what we receive reflects that directly. If we want peace and happiness, we need to invest in virtuous thoughts and deeds. Part 3. Karma and the chain of reactions, the logic of the universe. Karma is a chain of reactions where a single action affects not just ourselves but others and the entire environment around us. The butterfly effect theory illustrates this well, showing that even the smallest action can create significant impacts in the future. When we plant a negative action, it will come back to affect us, not in a mystical way but through the natural course of life. If we can sow positive thoughts, we will reap peace. Karma is not just correlation but an effect following the natural laws of life. Whatever we receive in the future, whether good or bad, is the result of the seeds we have sown in the past. Part 4. Reflective questions to invest in our own lives. A wise investor doesn't invest blindly. They strategize and question their decisions. So, the question becomes, what seeds are we planting in our lives? Do our daily actions bring us real joy and happiness? If not, should we change the way we invest in our minds? We can ask ourselves, what am I dedicating my time and mind to? Are my actions and words bringing value to myself and to others? Am I valuing and investing in my relationships and my inner peace? These questions aren't meant to evaluate outward achievements, but to help us understand and focus on authentic values that bring a more meaningful life. Part 5. Dialectical perspective and depth of investment thinking in Buddhist philosophy. Buddhist philosophy offers a profound perspective on how we should invest, not in external assets, but in inner peace and wisdom. By doing so, we won't get lost in the ups and downs of life because outer possessions are temporary, whereas inner peace remains when we know how to cultivate it. When we view life through this lens, we realize that money and material possessions are not the end goals, but simply means to an end. Values like love, compassion, and sharing are assets that never fade. If we understand that inner peace is the ultimate value, we will see that what is external is just supportive, not defining happiness. Conclusion: planting seeds in life with a deep and mindful heart. Finally, when we realize that life is a process of sowing seeds, we gain clarity between temporary and eternal values. All that we accumulate outside, whether wealth or status, are easy to lose, while peace and wisdom stay with us. So, when you think about life, ask yourself, what seeds are you planting? What do you want your life to yield for you and those around you? These questions will open a path toward true happiness, revealing the essence of life that goes far beyond the limitations of ambition and material accumulation, the unending quest for enough, a journey or an illusion. We live in a society where the word enough rarely finds a resting place. Even when we achieve milestones, whether it's securing a stable income, acquiring property, or reaching a specific level of societal recognition, it's often not long before the next goal comes into view. But this leads us to question, is our notion of enough something that can ever be satisfied, or is it an illusion that perpetuates a cycle of endless striving? In Buddhist philosophy, the idea of enough challenges us to reconsider what we value. If our sense of fulfillment relies solely on external accumulation, it remains vulnerable to the impermanence of everything around us. True contentment, Buddhism suggests, is not an external achievement but an inner state that, once attained, endures regardless of outward gains or losses. Part 1. The origin of wealth, a question of value, not ownership. The origin of wealth, as Buddhist thought illustrates, is not just a materialistic inquiry, but one that questions our relationship to everything we own. In our pursuit of wealth, we may overlook its temporary and interdependent nature, viewing it instead as something we possess absolutely. Yet every possession, from our homes to our earnings, relies on interconnected processes that, in essence, mean nothing belongs entirely to us. In this perspective, the wealth we accumulate is borrowed. For example, natural resources, be it wood for our furniture or food for our sustenance, are drawn from ecosystems that function in cycles, unaffected by our individual claims. If we recognize that our wealth is on loan, then our approach to it transforms. We begin to see our role not as owners but as custodians, understanding that how we use wealth has consequences that ripple outward. Thus, a shift in perspective from ownership to stewardship can lead us to appreciate our resources without attachment, aligning our actions with values like generosity and sustainability, which are central to Buddhist teachings. Part 2. Becoming the investors of our own lives. As investors, each of us sows seeds that will ultimately shape our inner and outer worlds. While an investor in the financial world aims for returns in monetary value, the Buddhist investor looks to cultivate returns in terms of inner peace, wisdom, and compassion. The stakes in this form of investment are high. The quality of our life experience depends directly on what we choose to cultivate within ourselves. Imagine every thought and action as a seed planted in the fertile ground of the mind. Seeds of love, patience, and mindfulness grow into steady contentment and resilience. Conversely, seeds of greed, anger, and jealousy create fields of suffering that leave us feeling discontented. In essence, the inner life we cultivate becomes our harvest, and the law of karma ensures that our investments yield returns that are congruent with the seeds we plant. Thus, every action, whether as small as a kind word or as large as a life-changing decision, carries weight. Our investments are constantly shaping our perception of the world, for better or worse. If we choose to cultivate thoughts and actions that align with kindness, gratitude, and patience, our experience of the world will, in turn, reflect these qualities. Part 3. Karma as the universe's logic, the chain of cause and effect. Karma is frequently misunderstood as a system of reward and punishment, but Buddhist philosophy encourages us to see it as an intrinsic principle of causation. Each action, whether positive or negative, initiates a series of effects that reverberate through our lives, influencing the present moment and laying down patterns for the future. The well-known butterfly effect demonstrates how a small action can lead to vast consequences, encapsulating the core of karmic law. In this sense, karma is as logical as gravity. When we act with compassion, we foster a sense of harmony that naturally attracts peace. When we act with hostility, discord is the inevitable result. Karma is not a moral judgment, but an illustration of cause and effect that shows us the pathways our actions open up. By understanding karma in this way, we gain insight into how our choices shape our reality. We become empowered to create a life rooted in qualities that foster happiness and peace rather than anxiety and conflict. Knowing that every choice we make has the potential to create far-reaching impacts, we may start to reconsider the significance of even the smallest actions. Part 4. Reflective questions for a meaningful investment in life. Like a careful investor, we benefit greatly from introspection and strategy in our choices. If we wish for a life that feels meaningful and satisfying, it's essential to ask ourselves probing questions. What am I truly investing my time and energy in? Our lives are made up of moments, and where we place our attention defines our experience. If we are preoccupied with status or material gain, will these truly fulfill us when other areas of life, such as relationships and inner peace, are neglected? Are my thoughts, words, and actions serving myself and others? Actions that benefit others often lead to internal growth and connection. By acting from a place of compassion, we enhance our own well-being, creating an environment that fosters peace and mutual respect. Am I cultivating relationships, kindness, and presence? These qualities tend to create positive feedback loops, making life more fulfilling over time. Investing in our relationships by showing up with attentiveness and care builds resilience and emotional richness. Through such inquiries, we align our daily choices with long-term values rather than short-term gains, which allows us to build a life that resonates with deeper purpose and satisfaction. Part 5. Dialectical perspective. Investing in inner values over outer assets. Buddhist philosophy encourages us to shift our focus from accumulating external wealth to cultivating internal wealth. While external wealth is fleeting, inner wealth, such as peace, wisdom, and compassion, remains with us throughout life's challenges. When we prioritize these inner values, we are less affected by the ups and downs of the external world. In this perspective, material wealth is not an end in itself, but a tool to facilitate a life rooted in kindness, generosity, and equanimity. When our relationship to wealth reflects these qualities, we use our resources not just for personal comfort, but for uplifting others, which brings a kind of joy that transcends the temporary satisfaction of possession. As we learn to invest in inner peace, we cultivate resilience. External wealth may be lost, but an investment in kindness, patience, and mindfulness cannot be taken from us. This creates a stability that allows us to meet life's inevitable changes with grace rather than fear. Conclusion: cultivating seeds of wisdom and compassion. Ultimately, recognizing life as a series of investments in our thoughts and actions reframes our understanding of value. In this light, the greatest wealth lies not in possessions but in the qualities of mind and heart we nurture. While material success may come and go, the inner qualities we cultivate remain with us, supporting a sense of well-being that endures. When we ponder the seeds we are planting each day, we open the door to deeper fulfillment. Are we sowing seeds of peace, kindness, and compassion, or are we planting seeds of stress, competition, and attachment? Buddhist philosophy invites us to reflect on these choices, recognizing that each one holds the power to shape our lives and the world around us. In the end, perhaps the question isn't just how much is enough, but rather what is truly valuable. This shift in perspective transforms the way we see life. Instead of an endless chase, it becomes a meaningful journey of learning, growth, and connection, A journey where every seed we plant contributes to a harvest of inner peace and shared happiness. What do you think about these views? Please give your perspective so we can share, discuss, and learn together to make our lives better and our hearts peaceful. Thank you, and see you again.